Welcome back, everybody. My name is Tim. This is another Real Ideal Gear review, and today we're going to do a flashlight review. I haven't done a flashlight review in a long time. And so we're going to do this. I have had the Sofirn 23s and 24s in my possession for, I think, a year, if not just over a year, just under a year, somewhere around a year. And I really like this design. I really love the company. The Sofirn company makes great flashlights. And these four flashlights are the flashlights to have for any kind of travel that you're going to be doing. And there's a couple of flashlights that stand out above the other two. And of those two that stand above the other two, there's only one that stands up above all four, and significantly so. And I'm going to make the case for it. Matter of fact, I'm going to tick off a bunch of YouTubers on this, and because this is, when I hear and I see YouTubers talking about these four flashlights, they almost always go to the new shiniest, brightest thing, which is the 23 Pro or the 24 Pro. And they, oh, this is the best one ever. We're going to find out what actually is the case when we compare specs, usability, and things like that. So let's get into these four. We're going to talk about the uses of these four. And I'm going to start off by talking about the IF24 Pro just as an example. And because the IF24 Pro needs a little bit of love, because later on it's not going to get any. But the overall design of the flashlight is to have two types of lights. Here you have the side light and you have the main light, the front light, top light, whatever you want to call it. And this is where you get the most candela, the most lumens that come out the top. The side light's good for reading. It has different colors for notifications like emergencies or party lights. You can do party tricks with this light. Let's see here. And, oh, colors right here. There we go. And you can change the different colors. And I've actually used this for lighting on some of my shots for photography, for watches that I review. And so I'll set these up. So I do actually use the color for these, but it's more for photography, or I'll have it in the car with me as far as emergency light, you know, notifying people where I'm at as far as an emergency goes. So you've got a great light, magnetic base. All of them have a magnetic base. They all have a clip on here. They are all Type-C charging. They all have really a durable aluminum case and the IP66 waterproof rating. What else? 1 meter drop test. So these are fairly durable flashlights. I'm a little concerned about some of the stuff on the 23 Pro, the 24 Pro, and the 24. We'll get into that in just a little bit when it comes to the drop test. But the 24s have the 18650 batteries in them, which is a smaller battery. And the 23s have the 21700 battery. So bigger battery, higher discharge rate, you get a brighter flashlight, basically. Okay, so when we're comparing brightnesses between the 23s and the 24s, you have to compare them amongst each other. So the 24 versus the 24 Pro, or the 23 versus the 23 Pro. And we'll get into that in a little bit, because there's some significant differences that pop up. So that's the kind of the layout of the flashlight. You have a mechanical lockout on the 23 Pro, the 24, and the 24 Pro. You have the mechanical lockout, this mode ring, or whatever they call this, mood ring. So you turn it to the lockout button or the lockout symbol, and it mechanically locks it out. Which I'm gonna get into that in just a minute. But we'll just talk a little bit about the overall layout of these. Now the 24s, both of these have a polished reflector on the inside, okay? And both the 23s have an orange peel reflector on the inside, which I prefer. When it comes to the multi-purposeness of a flashlight, I would rather have a wider beam than a very focused beam. If I'm doing something tactical and I want something long range, then you want that polished, long throw reflector on the inside. Something like what we have here, which is, where to go? All right, the Throwdown Catapult Pro. Long reflector. See how deep that reflector sits inside? Highly polished, extremely focused beam. This is something that goes a long distance, all right? And that's kind of what you get out of the 24s. You start to get a little bit more candela that way, more focused beam at distance, versus the 23s, which is more of a diffused beam. It brightens up an area much better, okay? So that's the differences in design between the reflectors. Of course, you get more output with the 23s than the 24 because you have the bigger battery. So you're gonna get more brightness overall out of the 23s. Now let's start to get into some of the differences between these. And I'm going to start off with the first big one that's on the outside. Now they all have a magnetic tail cap, and they all have the lanyard loop that you can put a lanyard into. There's a 24, this is the 23 Pro, this is the 23, here's a 24 Pro. So they all have the lanyard loop that you can put in the magnetic tail cap, which the magnetic tail cap is hugely important. I think it's a great feature, especially for a multi-purpose flashlight like the 23s and the 24s. If you can sit this against something metal and you can rotate this way, you can light something up. You also have the light out the top end. All of these can light out the top or the side. We'll talk a little bit more about one of them has the capacity to do both. You can shoot out the top and the side at the same time, okay? Now the differences between these that are pretty obvious and right off the top is going to be on the clip. So I'm going to rotate this over. So here are the three, the 24 Pro, or the 23 Pro, the 24, and the 24 Pro. All of them have a one-way clip. Only the 23 has the two-way clip, which in my opinion just makes it more usable. You are able to put this on a ball cap and use it if you want to. You don't have that option on here. Okay, if you do, you run the front of the light pointed right at your skull. See, there's an example of, okay, we're gonna get into that in a little bit. So the two-way clip is something that I really like. And I think the 23 takes it hands down. This right here is a big feature for me. If you're looking for a flashlight that does multiple things well, this is the very beginning of that journey, is with the 23. Now, granted, the 23 and the 24s are different in size because the battery size is different, the 21700 battery versus the 18650 battery. So it lends itself to being a little bit wider. But if you look at the overall length, the length of the flashlight, the 23 is just a little bit shorter. I'll line these up here for you. The 23 is shorter. It's the same with the 24. So here's the 23 and the 24. So these two came out about the same time, and then the 24 Pro came out. But the 24 is actually longer than the 20. The 24 is longer than the 24 Pro. And the 23 is shorter than both of them. And to boot, the 23 is shorter than the 23 Pro by quite a bit. So when it comes to carryability, the 23 is the shortest of the four. The 24s are the narrowest of the bunch. But when it comes to narrowness, I don't see a huge difference if you were to put this in the pocket, which I have done because I don't mind carrying a flashlight this size in my pocket. I carry it, and you know, the length for me matters because that's mostly what the width is part of it. But it's not that much wider than the 24. I can handle that. All right, that's okay. And you get a much greater capacity out of this as well with the 23s. But if you're looking for something that's slim, yeah, the 24 is the way to go. All right. But I'm going down the route of, like, if you're carrying one of these flashlights, you're not carrying it because it's compact. You're carrying it because it has all these functions on it. So why not sacrifice a little bit of the width and gain a shorter flashlight, gain a two-way clip, and among other things. Okay. Now, this is where I think the 24 Pro is almost not pocketable. It is so much longer than the 23. It's not even close. At least the 24s are close. And this really, when it comes down to the overall length of the flashlight, I think it's pocketable. All right. I think it's on the very edge of it. I think, it depends on what kind of pants you're wearing or shorts that you're wearing as far as pocketability goes. But I think the 23 can do it. Certainly the 24s can do that. If the 23 can do it, the 24 Pro and the 24 certainly can do it as well. I don't think the 23 Pro is really pocketable. To me, it's too long. It's too much, I don't know, too much length in the pocketability category. All right. So that's the outside. We've got the two-way clip. Also, one other thing I want to talk about is, let's get the 24 up here. So these two came out fairly close together, the 23 and the 24. And you can see there's a very stark difference between the function, the button on the 23 versus the 24. When the 24 came out, I remember getting the 23. I was like, oh yeah, I like this flashlight. And then the 24 came out not too much longer after that. Oh, this function ring is so much easier. It also is a mechanical lockout. You're not going to have this thing going off in your pocket. Folks, this is the exact opposite of what I've had. I've carried both of these in pocket. The 23 has never come on, ever. The 24 has come on almost every time I wear it and I'm out doing stuff because, I'm not just sitting around on the couch watching TV with a flashlight in my pocket. I'm doing stuff. And this ring will start to move one direction or the other. All right. And if that doesn't matter which direction it goes, because once it goes on, you have a light on in your pocket. And depending on where it was last set, so if it was set on high out the top or high on the side, more so out the top, you're going to generate a lot of heat that way. You're also going to lose a lot of battery juice that way, especially if you don't notice it right away. If you're outside, bright sunny day, and it's in your pocket and you're out doing stuff by yourself, you can drain this flashlight out because this stupid ring activated, okay? And certainly it has to go a certain distance, but I have had this almost every single time turn on in my pocket. So the people that say that this is a much better lockout system, that is bogus. There is no way. Now the lockout system on the 23 is a 4-click, and you get the Roger flash at the end to show you that it's locked out. And once it's locked out, if I press the button, I get moonlight mode. It doesn't go on to the last setting like it does in the 23s or the 24 Pro or the 23 Pro and the 24s. So when I hit the button, I get a light that barely goes on. Like this can go for days. It can go for days and it doesn't drain the battery because that's the only option if it's pressed that way. In order to unlock it 4 clicks in a row consecutively within a certain time frame, Roger flash, and we're back on. Okay? So the idea that the ring is a much better lockout system is baloney. That is absolute garbage. And then the other one that people say, well, it's so much easier to use. I can just turn the ring and go from one thing to the other. And I'm like, yeah, okay, fine. But it's much more cumbersome for me to move my finger around the dial than to press once, turn on the top light, twice, turn on the side light, okay? 3 times, turn on the color light on the side. And you can hold it down, you get the different colors to come up. Okay, let's go to blue, it goes to all the different colors. All 4 of them do this. Purple, then it goes to red, then it goes to yellow, and so on. Okay, and I use these lights actually for photography purposes. So 1 turns on the top light, 2 clicks turns on the side light, 3 clicks turns on the colored side light. How is that more complex than rotating a ring? And I got to rotate it. I'm doing it one-handed. It just does not. No, I do not buy that for a second. And for a guy like me who's had some tactical training in law enforcement and things like that, like the fewer movements that I can make, it's always better, especially under stressful situations. All right. So clicking it twice. All right. Side light. I use the side light so much on these flashlights. It's ridiculous. With the ability to have a side light, I don't use the top light nearly as much, or the moonlight mode from the top light. I use the side light because it's diffused light, okay? It also has a diffuser on here. The others have a little bit of a diffuser, but as you can see the LEDs in there, where you can't see that on the 23. So you get a much more diffused light out of the side of the 23. All right, so enough on the ring. So the ring is bogus when it comes to the ease of use, the mechanical lockout reliability. That is absolutely not true. Absolutely not true. 100%. Now, let's talk a little bit about the differences between the 24s and the 23. Now, the output for sure is different because you have, let's see here, get these kind of lined up so they kind of sit the same way here. Get them clustered together and also kind of bases lined up so you can kind of see the length difference between the 3 or the 4. All right. Now the 24s, let's go through the specs real quick on the 24s. Now, the 24, just the regular 24, normal output, highest output on turbo is 2000 lumens. For the Pro, it's 1800. So you lose just a little bit, 10% on the output of the 24 Pro. But on high, you get 700 lumens out of the regular 24, 900 lumens out of the Pro. 2.5 or 2.25 hours runtime on the 24, and you get a 1.5 hour runtime on the 24 Pro. So if you're looking for runtime, is the 200 lumen output increase worth the almost extra hour runtime that you get, 3/4 hour runtime on the 24? This is where you got to kind of measure, like, what am I actually looking for here? Do I want a longer running 700 lumens? Am I okay with 700 lumens, or do I want to get closer to that 1,000 lumen magic number? I love 1,000 lumens, but you also drop off on the runtime. So that's the measure back and forth. Now on medium, the 24 is at 150 lumens, and the 24 Pro is at 250 lumens. 13.5 hour runtime, and this is the killer. 7-hour runtime. Go back and check that. Yeah, 7-hour runtime on the Pro. So you get half the runtime, but you don't get double the output. So that's something to keep in mind on medium. And I always like looking at medium. To me, medium is one of the settings on a flashlight that you really want to have close to that 300 lumen output, if possible. 250 is great, but you only get 7 hours of runtime. Is 150 enough, but you get 13 hours of runtime, over 13 hours of runtime? You know, it's up to you. Low, both of these are going to run sub 30 lumens. So the 24 is at 10 lumens and the 24 Pro is at 25 lumens. The 24 will run for 115 hours and the 24 Pro will run for 75 hours. So again, is the 15 lumens really worth the extra? Moonlight mode, 24 runs at 1 lumen for 20 days and the Pro runs at 3 lumens for 12.5 days. Okay, so there are some differences on that. Now, what about the 23s? The 23 runs at 4,000 lumens for 2 hours, and the 23 Pro runs for 5,000 lumens for 2 hours. So there's a big difference right there. 5,000 lumens for the same runtime. So if you're looking for something that gets you a little bit more output out the top, the Pro, 23 Pro, is going to be one to take a look at for sure. And this is where these two also run into some of those differences as well. On high, we have 1,500 lumens on the 23 for 2.5 hours. And on the Pro, we have 1,300 lumens, so less, for 3 hours. So if you're looking for something that's not turbo, but it runs on high, the 23 might actually be the way to go. So there's a little bit of give and take on that as well. Now the medium is going to be 500 lumens for 4 hours here, 550 lumens for 6 hours on the Pro, 100 lumens for 17.5 hours, 100 lumens for 30 hours. So for some reason, the Pro on low, they both run at 100 lumens. The Pro 23 runs almost twice as long as the 23, which is really odd. Now, this is what I like. 1 lumen output on an IF23. So if I want that moonlight mode, I can get 1 lumen for 27 days. The 23 Pro, I get 5 lumens for 15 days. I think the 5 lumens is too bright. So if I'm looking for a flashlight that does certain things, I might go with the 23 with a low output for moonlight. It also has a much longer, brighter runtime at the high end of high, where you have the 1,500 lumens versus the 1,300 lumens. So I might choose the IF23 for that. You also want to look at the spread between the different lumen output levels. And do you have a much more even distribution, or do you have one that's really bright and then it just falls way off into the next mode? That's something to keep in mind as well. So those are the outputs for these flashlights. And again, different batteries are going to separate the 23s from the 24s. But I think the 23, in my estimation, I love the moonlight mode. I'd much rather have the 1 lumen output at the low end versus a 5 or the 3 on the 24 Pro. So the 2 Pros, to me, just don't cut it when it comes to the very end, when it comes to the low end, the moonlight modes. So that's where the Pros, I think, are hyped up for certain things. Now, if you're looking for much more output, the 23 Pro really does a great job of adding more output for sure. The 24, maybe not as much. Matter of fact, the 24 at turbo is less than the 24 regular. It's 1800 lumens versus the 2000 lumens on the 24. But the 23 Pro, that really puts some output out there. And again, it has the orange peel reflector, so you're going to really spread some of that light around. Now, what are some other things about these lights that I like? One more thing I want to talk about, and that, two more things, and that is the 23s versus the 24s. The 23 is a power bank. Both of these 23 models, you can discharge from the flashlight to charge another device. With the 24s, you can't do that. So multi-purpose, when I say multi-purpose, I mean multi-purpose. You're going to get more of that out of the 23s than you will out of the 24s. So to keep in mind, you also need the Type-C output for that output. So make sure you have a cord that starts with the Type-C and then goes to whatever you need to charge. If it's an iPhone, maybe it's the proprietary iPhone, although there's iPhones switching over to Type-C too, so that's good. But the 23s add one more layer of multi-purpose use over the 24s. So for that reason, the 24s are much lower on my list. Now there's one more thing that even between the 23 and the 23 Pro versus the 24s, and that is this, that you can run both lights at the same time. And I've already shown, okay, and you can go there, got the top light, 1, 2, let's go 1, 2. I can run both. So you can do that on the 23, you can't do it on the 24s. Why? Because they have that stupid ring on there. You can only run one of these functions at a time. As far as I know, and maybe I'm wrong, okay, but I have yet to find the mode where, and it doesn't have it, where you can run both the top light and the side light at the same time. Now, why would I want to do that? Because I want more light. I don't know. I can't think of a reason right now, but if it came up that way, that's one way I could do it. Can't do that. Rather have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. So of these four, which is the four that I would choose at the very top, it's the 23. And when I look at my spreadsheet, the 23 comes out on top with the most features. Running both things at the same time, you have the two-way clip. You have the user interface on here. I think is much easier to use. It's simple as far as just the on-off function, and the lockout is much more effective on the 23 than it is on these dials on the 23 Pro or the 24s. So this is the flashlight to get. Go out and buy this flashlight. Now the number 2 on this list is going to be the 23 Pro. Output, everything about it is great. It's also a extra battery pack, so you can charge other things with it. That's why I like the 23s over the 24s, because if I need something to be charged, I'll have the 23 with me. I always have the 23 in my computer case with me as carry-on luggage on an airplane or with me in the car. The 23 is the one I always have with me over the other 3. The 23 Pro would be the number 2 choice. And then of these other 2, I would go with the 24 over the 24 Pro. It's, I don't know, for me, there's just a little bit more about the 24 that I like. But there's really not a lot of difference between the two. So 24 Pro versus the 24, whatever. If you're looking for the outputs at the medium loads, then the 24 Pro is the way to go. But the way to go is the 23s. I would definitely go with the 23 itself because it's shorter, it's a little more compact. It is potentially pocket carryable in that sense. So there you go. I'll show you some outdoor video now of the outputs of the flashlight, and you get an idea of what these lights look like in the dark. And yeah, the 23, there's not much that's going to beat that one. So for those of you out there who've done reviews on the 24s or the 23 Pros, you're 100% wrong for choosing these 3, any of these 3, over the original, the OG, the IF23. Like, this is the one to get.